Motor couplers are used to couple a motor. This is a NEMA 17 motor with a 5mm shaft to a lead screw. Lead screws can be there's a 1/2-inch Acme lead screw or possibly a 1/2-inch threaded rod. This is much less expensive, but is not as accurate as that lead screw. What you would normally do in order to couple the torque from this motor to these shafts is use a motor coupler. And this one is a Delrin plastic motor coupler, and that's the 1/2-inch section, and there's the 5mm section. And that's a fairly good motor coupler. Now let's set you back about $17. What I'm going to talk about today is how to build one out of laser cut parts, and it'll look something like this. Does the same job as that does, and cost you in parts about $1 worth of parts there. So that's what our discussion is. You may have recently watched the video about laser cutting parts. I have a full spectrum 40-watt laser, and these are the parts that you saw being cut. And these are the inserts for the motor coupler, and they're the ones that carry the screws. The screws go in these slots right here, and they're held together by these small pieces which are drilled out. And this slot that goes down the center here is a saw slot, which is cut after they're glued together. So let me show you the entire lineup of parts. First, we have a 1/4-inch clamp for the 1/2-inch parts. Next comes the insert for the screws, 1/2-inch. Then we have 2 more clamps for the 1/2-inch part. Next comes the 5mm insert for screws, and there's a 1/4-inch piece, and then we have a round piece at the very end. Reason we have a round piece at the very end is because this sits down far enough. The motor screws that hold the motor on are here, 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 and here, so you have to make it smaller to have it work. So this part clamps onto the 5mm shaft out of the motor, and this part is where your lead screw goes. Now this is carbonized surface in here, and you would think it might slip, but it actually clamps very tightly against the even a smooth shaft. And of course the lead screw has threads on it, so that helps the clamping process, and it won't turn after you tighten the screws up at all. Okay, we're going to show you now. We're going to simulate gluing because just to save some time here, and I think once you see this, it'll be fairly obvious how to go about doing this. Here's the first piece. I just turn that over, and we take this piece and we apply glue here, 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 and here. Let me turn that over and place that right there. Then you want the glue, you try to keep the glue out of the slots where the screws go. So you do this piece here, 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 and here. When you put it together, the glue squeezes out, so you don't really need to be 100% coverage there. It'll get the coverage when you squeeze it together. This piece is the same size, so we can glue the piece we're putting on. There, and you get your fingers a little dirty here. And for here, we'd do it here, 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 and here. And then we would put glue on this, here. And you put that piece on. And this piece, you just glue the parts that are going to be attached. There. Now, when you get it all together like that, the next thing to do is to press this down some way. Or you put something on top and press it down. And what happens is the glue will come out along the edges. and you'll have to wipe that off some way. And, you want enough glue in there to make sure the entire surfaces are covered, because there's a lot of stress put on this part when you clamp the screws down. And now you have to align that in some way, and there are a couple of things you can do. Get a flat board like this and put these on here, and take another piece of board and make that so that that's flat across it, and then turn it 90 degrees and do that. And of course, if you did the other two, this is probably should be flat here by now, and so on. Then you want to make sure your saw slot lines up here. Now, you can let this dry, and that will actually work like that. It's a little bit easier to get the alignment exactly right if you use another tool. This is a half-inch shaft here and a 5mm shaft here, and they're concentric, so that I'm going to slide this down on the slot. You don't have to do this, but it does help a little bit with alignment. And you slide that down in the slot. Get all the way down. Now, if you're going to use this, I would put that on, and then I would do this part, because these will rotate a little bit. Although it's easier to handle with glue on it than it is like this. Then get this lined up. Now, don't wait too long, because you wouldn't want to wait. Maybe you wait 30 seconds or so with this, held tightly, because this will stick in there. So rotate it and pull it out. After about a minute, you're going to have a pretty solid piece there. You can still slide these and you still separate them, but it still becomes pretty solid. And you put that down somewhere and you let it harden. I would wait at least an hour before I did the next step with this. And the next step with this is to take it over to your either drill press or your hand drill, and actually drill the holes here for the 4 screws that go in. The screws that we use are number 6 2-inch screws, and the drill that we use is a 9/64 drill, and that's it's a tight fit for a number 6 screw. So drill those out, and once those are drilled out, you want to cut these apart. I use a hacksaw. It works very well. It's very easy to cut these apart, and hacksaw those apart. And now you've got this in pieces. Next thing to do is these inner surfaces. They're a little ragged on the edges. So what you want to do is to sand those inner surfaces. Then sometimes you can sand the outside if you want to. I generally do that. So I have 2 pieces here which were processed. And you can see the screw holes, and we did sand the inner surfaces there. I also sanded the outside. It gives it a different look. Okay, once you're at that point, then you can undo this and put screws in here. And that, and the nut. And now I put the other 4 screws in, and you've got a motor coupler clamp. And you take your lead screw, and it should bottom out. You got to push it all the way in, and sometimes you turn a little bit. It helps. And then you put your motor in. The next thing you do is you tighten up these screws. You'd like to make them about equal tightness, and you want the slot on both sides to be about the same. And that, there you go. There's your inexpensive motor coupler. And there's your expensive motor coupler. Either one works fine. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it worthwhile watching. Thank you. going to show us a variety of icons being made on the same sheet with a variety of colors, and we'll change the extrusion needle a couple of times so you can see the effects of that. Let's get a little closer to this one.